Thomas Lockley is gone, and a new challenger has stepped up in his place. So Thomas Lockley, if you aren't aware, is the individual that's been pushing this whole Yasuke narrative that he's some kind of legendary samurai. He wrote a 400-page biography that's full of fictional information, and now he's gone into hiding. He's deleted his socials. He's missing in action, right? Because Backlash is too much. This individual, by the name of Hirayama, is a Japanese historian. So now the wokies are jumping on this saying, we can't argue with an actual historian, right? That we're not Japanese. We don't know what we're talking about. It's all false grift. Japanese people are still calling this guy out, by the way. And we're going to look into this whole post because this was making its rounds. Somebody actually came to my Discord today trying to, I guess, punk me out that I should make a video about this and admit the truth because this guy's an actual historian and none of us have studied Japanese history in our lives. But when you look into who he's involved with, his backstory, there's a little bit of a sus thing about it. So we're going to get into it. But this was the tweet that I saw moving around today. You can see Japanese historian Yu Hirayama says that Yasuke was a samurai. And that's the debate. People have been debating, is he a samurai? You know, take the whole POC thing out of Assassin's Creed Shadows. The whole debate is, was he a samurai? Because there's really only like 2-3 pieces of paper with small excerpts about Yasuke's actual history, and none of it proves that he's an actual samurai. But in Assassin's Creed Shadows, he's being praised as a legendary black samurai, and that's in part because of Thomas Lockley, who we just talked about a couple videos. He's been exposed for actually editing the Wikipedia page and Encyclopedia Britannica pages for Yasuke using his actual fictional 400-page biography as a historical source. It's literally a source that's cited on those pages to benefit him. Again, he's gone into hiding, but this individual is saying there seems to be a lot of talk about Yasuke, a black man who served Nobunaga Oda. Historical records about him are quite scarce, but there is no doubt that he was a samurai serving Nobunaga. So he's even saying historical records are scarce, that there's basically nothing out there. How can you say there's no doubt that he was a samurai serving Nobunaga if there's actually like scarce details? There's not much in here. So he's kind of contradicting himself when we go further into this and you look at his claims, stuff like that. He says a lot, but doesn't show enough evidence. And that seems to be this thing when people want to control a narrative and revise history, right? He goes on to say, I can say this because the historical documents that we have state that Nobunaga gave him a stipend, he was given a house, and he was given a sword. And he's getting trashed. You're going to look at this in a minute down in the replies. He's getting trashed by Japanese people. Remember, there's a petition that was actually organized by the Japanese citizens that has 93,000 signatures and counting at this point, asking for Assassin's Creed Shadows to be canceled because they feel that there's a lack of historical accuracy here. They feel that there's a lot of respect on their culture. This is bad. Now, the game's not getting canceled. I've said this before, but the Japanese people aren't happy. People used to say, oh, this is just a right-wing grift. There's a whole bunch of right-wing grifters making fake outrage, brainwashing their audiences to hate these games. No, guys, this is actually going in front of the Japanese diet. Politicians are gathering evidence and questions and consultations to take this to the Japanese government. We might have a diplomatic incident here when it comes to this video game, but we now have this individual stepping up and saying he was a samurai, that there's no doubt according to them. So here's the long post that they posted, and there's going to be quite a little bit of a translation here. This is a real big paragraph. Remember, Google Translate's not exactly that accurate, but for the most part, I guess it got the gist. So you can see he's saying, seems there's a lot of talk about Yasuke, a black man who served Oda Nobunaga. There are very few historical documents about him, but there's no doubt he was a samurai who served Nobunaga. Regardless of one's social status, if one's master promoted one to the rank of samurai, one could become one in medieval warring states society. I can say this because the historical documents state that 1, Nobunaga gave him a stipend, 2, he was given a house, And 3, he was given a sword. So here's his explanation. This is like, I guess, his, based on the historical documents, what we have. Being given a stipend and serving Nobunaga closely fulfills the important requirements of a contract between master and servant, an agreement to receive a stipend. It is also important that he was allowed to carry a sword, so he was a two-sworded servant and not a servant. Servants were not allowed to carry swords. And if he was given a house, there's no room for doubt. He was probably a slave until Nobunaga took over the missionary slave, but due to the above 1 to 3, he was probably a samurai of his own volition. During the Hinoji incident, Akeki's side did not kill Yasuke because he was an animal or not Japanese, but that was only because Akechi did not recognize Yasuke as a samurai, probably because he had discriminatory feelings. At that time, it was common for a master to promote someone of low status to a samurai. To begin with, there's a good example in Hideyoshi. So this is his explanation for it. Again, it seems like there's no official title of samurai given to him. It's just a, hey, he got this, he got that, so he was probably a samurai. But he's being questioned, and there's actual Japanese people. You can see his replies are full of Japanese people calling him out on stuff. And just to look at some of these, man, I feel he's getting completely buried to a point in some of these. So you can see, if so, why did Yasuke not have a family name? Is it possible for a person to be promoted to the rank of samurai to not have a family name? Right? And he replies, I've already answered my opinion elsewhere. So he's been getting torched to the point where he doesn't even want to answer this. And you can see people replying even in English. Well, perhaps you should answer it here because the thread is getting international attention. I don't see how your 3 criteria require the conclusion that he was a samurai and not merely a retainer, of which those 3 criteria would also apply. And that's the thing, is the debate is he wasn't a samurai. He didn't have a title. He didn't have a surname. He was a retainer. And he's getting absolutely flamed. You can see, you are a liar. Shame on your family and ancestors. You bring dishonor to your family in Japanese history. You must seppuku now to restore your honor. And okay, you know what? Calling on that a bit much. I'm not that angry over a historian fucking lying, but some of these Japanese people are taking it quite serious. You can see, you answer other places, but you don't answer me. Okay, I'll look into it myself. Right? Just absolutely getting buried alive here. And here's another post. The teacher answered my questions about her surname and samurai status. Thank you very much. So I guess he eventually followed through, saying surnames and samurai status. Some have criticized the fact that they were not samurai because they did not have a surname. Indeed, the presence or absence of a surname is a very important point of contention. However, during the Sengoku period, I'm sorry, I'm slurring all over myself. There were people who were of samurai status without even a surname. Let me introduce the most easily understandable example. Right? So he goes on to say a lot of the stuff. It's actually a lot of paragraphs, but to me, again, it's not much of anything. I think Japanese people are calling him out, lying, saying that his stuff is contradicting itself. You can see Grums actually wrote a pretty lengthy response to this, which I'm going to use this to basically go through it, because when you're looking at Google translated replies from Japanese people, I feel a lot of stuff gets lost in translation here. So I'm not going to mess with that. But if you guys want to go and look, there's a lot of people calling him out, especially Japanese people. You don't want to discredit Japanese opinion and backlash just because somebody claims they're a historian, right? So Grum says, there's a huge argument erupting among Japanese and Japanese historians right now. Hirayama has been so blasted by Japanese on X that he has stopped tweeting about it after going viral. So he's apparently completely quiet. Entertainment consultant, historian, NHK, and professor at the University of Health Sciences has proclaimed Yasuke is a samurai. He brings no new information, citing the same scant sources Lockley uses, which boils down to, it doesn't say Yasuke was not a samurai. So they're basically just, that's their argument. Oh, it doesn't say he's not one, so there's a chance he could be, which it's a whataboutism, or it's proving a negative, right? That's not how you win arguments. You can't prove a negative. You can't prove something that can't be proven. And with no evidence, that means it's not true. Now, this goes on to say, critics point out Hirayama is a known Communist Party supporter and claim he is a globalist via his work with the Pony Entertainment Group. So this is something that I was going to look into here in a minute when we take a look at another tweet from an individual that called all this out. But we're going to continue with Grum's thing. But his identity as a Japanese historian has inflamed huge backlash. Japanese and other Japanese historians are upset that he is giving foreigners false ammunition to defend Lockley, which he never directly supports, whose 400-page book makes many spurious claims such as slavery was popular in Japan and for promoting false narratives to foreigners about the Japanese. So remember, Lockley's 400-page actually had censored and edited stuff that was not in the Japanese version of it. The Westerners version had stuff that was promoting slaves in Japan and things like that, and he took it out, completely out. His argument is drawn from the same three source sentences that everyone else has already discussed, which is the stipend, sword, and home. But so were many non-samurai, including merchants. According to critics, also it's claimed that he lied about the sword given to Yasuke, which was only a short sword, not the long sword of samurai, according to these critics. So you can have a short sword and not be a samurai, right? In fact, Hirayama himself says that all this, under the most generous interpretations, could only grant the lowest status of fighting man to Yasuke, which he claims could very well be samurai or later promoted to samurai. But others point out was not samurai in the sense that the West views it, nor any legendary or important status. And it got to the point, check this out, check this out. It got to the point where he's literally replying to people saying, I'm tired, I'll get back to work, I can't do this. Like, he was getting this much backlash and debate on here. And you can see people saying, that's because you lied. If you get a sword, you become a samurai, then merchants will become a samurai. So it's like, okay, like, they're just calling him out. Hands the fuck down. This is no different than from the situation of colonial scholars who give their stamp of approval to a colonial historical perspective that is being trumpeted and consumed outside of Japan. Why are they so eager to show off their academic expertise to Japanese people when they have nothing to say to English-speaking people? And it says, I think that's because they can be superior when competing against other Japanese people. So this is like Japan versus Japan, guys. Japanese people versus Japanese historians. It's getting pretty heated, and I've seen it in my comment section. A lot of you guys are in here voicing your backlash, voicing your concern, voicing the disrespect that you guys are feeling, and I feel for you guys here. So this person right here said, the broad definition of a samurai that scholars think of is different from the definition of a samurai that foreigners think of. With your statement, a Japanese historian is acknowledging that Yasuke was a samurai who fought with a sword just like the samurai we see in anime, movies, and games. I would like you to say that even if he may have been a samurai academically, he's not the samurai that foreigners think of. So that's a good point. You know, while he technically might have had the credentials or the house, the stipend and stuff, he wasn't some legendary hero. All right? He wasn't some legendary warrior that was over there in Japan that was being praised and loved by everybody. So here's this individual right here that basically exposed every single thing about this individual that's coming out as a historian today. This is Purple Whale. And they said, Hirayama is partnered with Pony Canyon, which is a music and entertainment company to promote Japanese culture through entertainment, and is also a PR media site trying to globalize to the West, right? And you see, he's basically in charge. You know, the Pony Company, or Pony Canyon, I'm sorry. Their first year of globalization has met with U.S. music industry members and U.S. press to help with the expansion of their newly established North American branch for music and anime distribution. It also happens when Japan opens a branch in California. So it's stuff like this, globalization efforts, is kind of sus, in my opinion, especially when you're pushing stuff like DEI. When you start to get into this territory, because they want to control a narrative. This is all part of a woke narrative. You can see MUFG, which is lending money to Fuji Media Holdings, which owns Pony Canyon, who's promoting Hirayama as a historian, promoting Yasuke was a historical samurai for Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed, is majority owned by none other than Blackrock, Vanguard, and Goldman Sachs, who are the three notorious companies that we see all the time. And this should automatically, guys, seeing BlackRock and Vanguard and Goldman Sachs should automatically discredit any fucking credibility that this individual has. He's a paid puppet. He's a puppet for these fucking companies. This is literally like, there's no ethics behind his historical or his historian credentials, guys, when you have these three companies involved. And that's why I'm like, yeah, you know what? I can't take anything that this guy says. And I don't care if people try to say, well, he's an actual historian. You know, people are calling it out. People are calling this out. Hands the fuck down. And you can see this person put a banger tweet out. There are 3 pages written about him ever, and all they say is that he existed and was given something by Nobunaga. Hirayama is the equivalent of Alex Jones and his community. And, you know, at this point, even though I might be an Alex Jones fan, that is hilarious, in my opinion. And shout outs to this individual right here, too. I talked about their video, calling it out. He's awesome. If you want to go check his videos out on all this coverage, I forget what his username is, but it's a Japanese channel on YouTube. He's very good. Shout outs to them. And yeah, you can see other people are saying the historian in question is getting absolutely cooked by other Japanese historians because his argument boils down to there's no proof he wasn't a samurai. Well, like I told my Discord when that guy was in there trying to call me out, there's no proof that I'm not Batman either. Am I Batman? Like, you know, it's, to me, people could come on and say stuff. If you can't prove it, that doesn't make it fact. You might want to hate it because it's a right-wing grift or whatever, but, you know, this is being called out. Look at Mark Fox, the next big fraud pushing the myth of the Black Samurai is Hirayama. Calling him out. Blackrock, Vanguard. And you can see, he said the lowest class of samurai before being given a family name. So this was in response to them saying, you know, where's the surname? And he's even saying it's the lowest class before being given a family name. So it's like, oh, he might have gotten one. You know what I mean? It's like he didn't have a title. Okay. So there's like a whole bunch of like weird gray area. You know, this is a lot of text here. You guys could look at it. It sounds to me like it's a whole bunch of excuses. You know, he's saying if the Lord recognized their achievements, they're given a family name and could acquire a family name that they were acquired through stages. And it was the last honor. When someone other than a samurai status, such as a peasant, was acquired, the first step was a contract of master and servant, the award of a stipend, and the part of the master-servant contract that recognized their service as a samurai was the award of a sword, which we can't even confirm what kind of sword it was at this point. So, remember, 93,000 signatures of people upset. This is going to the Japanese Diet. The government is going to be looking at this. And they're still desperate. It's so weird that the minute Thomas Lockley disappeared and vanished, we got this guy coming out defending Yasuke with all of his heart's desire. It's so weird that we got all these people running defense for this whole narrative that he was some kind of legendary black samurai, some legendary hero. And this goes beyond just the game, by the way. This goes beyond just Assassin's Creed Shadows. This goes into actual Japanese history. This goes into actual Japanese culture. This goes into actual Japanese everything. This actually affects a whole country. It's bigger than a video game, guys. This is revisionist history. This is woke agendas. This is woke narratives. Just to push the idea that a black man was a legendary samurai. That's how fucking wild it is that they're wanting to push this. And this is all because of Thomas Lockley. All because of that book that you wrote. And it's so strange to see how big this is coming how big of a thing this has truly become. So I'm gonna leave it there, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Comment down below, and subscribe if you're brand new. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, take care.